Hi, good evening and welcome to the ZP Developer Zone. So we like to do this at least once a week and today is no exception. You'll see the wrong date appear here. So by the time you see this, it's probably past the 9th of June 2024, but today's actually the 8th of June 2024. But we went early because it was just easier to go on a Saturday night. That said, let me go forward with a question. So question number one, somebody's seeking pH sensors and dissolved oxygen sensors and a temperature sensor for real-time data in a seawater application, and I am perfectly happy to talk about it. I will say that we're doing one tougher than this. We're actually doing similar type sensors actually in fish, so it's not the application's not achievable, but with the for ZP this is much more of a project than an off-the-shelf product offering, so I will discuss that. I'll speak quickly, only to get through the questions quite quickly. Question number two, this is probably our most sort of in-depth science question this week, and it's really about a redox enzyme system. Somebody has two enzymes and a mediator, and they're not sure about the voltages and whether the mediator is even in the right oxidation state. The quick answer is your hunch and what you've worked out is correct, and I will explain, at least my perspective on why you are correct and whoever's advising you is not correct. Also sensors for NT-proBNP. ZP, I've actually got some hardware in front of me at the moment. Let me just quickly change. Yeah, it's a little bit dark down here actually, I realise. But I have some hardware in front of me, and this hardware is all about measuring analytes in what we call an IBD setting, so I will talk about that. Also, question that will really be for question number three, but question number two is quite keen on doing, I think he's actually, or they are actually doing cyclovoltammetry. So they're doing cyclovoltammetry. This is a Bluetooth enabled device, by the way. It's both a as what we call a minimally viable product, and it's also a lab instrument as well. So they're gonna, question number two is quite interested in cyclovoltammetry, and they're also going to do amperometry. There we are, so we can go to amperometry as well. I've been using these QR codes, by the way, because this is a very unusual, I'd say actually a really revolutionary instrument actually, that we can use QR codes to go between different analytes or different tests. Now the reason I bring this up is because question number three actually wants to do, they want to do essentially a protein. A protein, I think, are often quite well done by doing either impedance spectroscopy or by doing square wave voltammetry. So we do have square wave voltammetry and impedance spectroscopy. So I'll just bring those two QR codes out to here, and then we can flash between those two just by using that square wave voltammetry, and then that's impedance spectroscopy. So right, so I'll deal with question number three as well, and question number four is lactate technology, which rather amusingly actually was probably amperometry, so I'll go back to amperometry as well. So we are able to, using this instrument, when I say this instrument, it's this kind of unusual, let's say, device, because actually I'm in Bluetooth connection. In fact, I'll just connect there. Now I am in Bluetooth connection with it. So that's an unusual instrument because it's both a lab, I don't want to call it a potentiostat, because potentiostat's kind of is a fairly old-fashioned term, I would say, these days. So actually this is something that's really quite revolutionary, because actually we can go between different analytical techniques just by using QR codes, but we can also then go through between different biosensors by using different QR codes. So this is a very unusual instrument that actually we can go from education, research, and actually proof of principle. That said, I need to go back to the screen here and just say I do have four questions. So question number one, I'm going to show you what technology we do have. Oh, I just want to say hi to Ali. Hey Ali, lovely to see you. Somebody's online at the moment, as I've known them an awful long time, so lovely to see them. I'll try to be quick and efficient with your time, Ali. Right, so question number one is really regarding underwater sensors, very robust application. Ali, who's online, knows all about fish sensors, so I won't go on too much about that. Question number 2 will be interesting because it's just about redox enzymes and how you can have this cascade of electrons. Question number 3 requires a protein assay, and I'm going to suggest square wave voltammetry or EIS actually for doing the assay, and I'm going to suggest, obviously because I'm biased, our Sensi-All platform for actually doing that work upon. And question number 4 is just about lactate sensing, probably wearable lactate sensing. Again, when we had a conference last year, and Ali, who's online at the moment, actually gave us a talk on CGM, continuous glucose monitoring. So this is something that we both have an interest in. And at ZP, in fact, this is a better camera here, we do have a very robust technology for lactate monitoring using microneedles. But I want to be really clear about it. The technology here has had something like 20 million euros invested into it. Question number 1. Okay, yeah, sweet. Okay, so Sahand, you're not obliged to watch, Sahand, all of this, but I will deal with question number 1. Anyway, question number 4. This is about lactate technology. So let me go forward a little bit faster. So just FYI, upcoming webinars. We will have a webinar next week, I think this is, on IVD, in vitro diagnostics. Sorry, I shared the wrong screen. We will have a webinar next week on in vitro diagnostics. This is all about doing rapid testing, out in the field and stuff like that. There's 2 ways of doing testing in this world. You can do continuous monitoring, which I always think is 10 times as hard as doing discrete monitoring. But we will do a webinar on discrete monitoring next week, which is easier than doing continuous monitoring. We always do 2 webinars, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And I want to say we'll also do a webinar on wearables. So question number 4 today will be about lactate sensing. ZP does have what I call a tier 1 technology that we do use with clients for doing continuous lactate monitoring. But what we put on the web store is only for proof of principles. We sort of do it, so people can kind of go in the lab and do a little bit. But I think people sometimes try to treat what we do on the website, on the web store, as if, we're going to take that to market. And it's like, just FYI. And people who watch this channel or listen to us a lot, there's a company in California called BioLink. They are doing a microneedle technology that's worn here. That microneedle technology, they spent 150 million US dollars on it so far. So what ZP sells on its web store for a couple of 100 euros is really to get you going. Technology like this has had 20 million US dollars spent on it so far, and that's not something that we put on the web store. But we do it with big clients, let's say. Anyway, we do a webinar next week, or maybe this is the week after, 19th of June. Also, this is not so relevant for the gentleman on this evening, but we are doing a webinar particularly for academia on the 25th of June. And I'll skip quickly because I want to be respectful of people's time. Right, okay, so I think that there are technologies, I know there are technologies for measuring pH and oxygen in seawater applications. The problem with them is they're expensive, and actually they can't, especially pH and, these sensors also, they drift a lot. So everyone would love to do, continuous monitoring of pH and oxygen, and that kind of technology does exist. It's probably, thousands of euros, maybe even tens of thousands of euros, and especially on the pH, it will require some, calibration. So to be frank, I don't think there's really anything on the market that you could swear blind that this is great technology and you can just put it into the application, just leave it there. Now at ZP, we do work on technologies that are used in sort of seawater applications. This is a sensing package. It's not so dissimilar to oxygen, in fact. We're measuring glucose and cortisol, but just for your interest, the guy who invented oxygen sensors was a gentleman called, crumbs, might slip my mind for a second, but it was invented in 1950, Leyland Clark. The oxygen sensor was invented in 1956 by a guy called Leyland Clark. About 3 years or 2 years later, he also invented the glucose sensor. So glucose sensors and oxygen sensors are actually quite similar. Now this particular sensing package, we actually end up implanting it in fish. So it sounds completely crazy, but can you imagine how robust technology has to be in order to be implanted into fish? But it is implanted into fish. Now the problem, well, not the problem, and these are actually the same fish, but now swimming around with these sensors implanted within them. So it is robust enough. But this is something that we're sort of still in development with, and it's had at least €1 million put into it so far. And the first application for this technology will actually be fish. So here is the fish swimming along. We challenge them with some glucose, and then the signal jumps up because they're actually the sensor responding in this case to glucose. So the problem I've got with this is, let's say you were trying to sort of monitor some sort of concrete structure in the seawater, then you've actually got at least the sensing part underneath the water. I could understand that in order to get data out in a continuous manner, you'd actually have to have the sensors in the water and then possibly a wire coming up and out of the water, because you can't send electromagnetic type signals like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi will not work through water. We send data through water, so when we're doing this kind of work where these fish are swimming around, we're constantly streaming the data, but we're actually doing it acoustically. But it's not easy. I think there's not a lot of people out there in the world who actually do this kind of work. We're one of them, but I'm not aware of at least I'm not aware of a pH and oxygen sensor that's kind of has really what you're looking for. You're looking for something that's robust. You can leave it in place. It doesn't require calibration. Probably low cost. I really don't think that exists. I would say that if we were to be involved, we would really have to do it as a project. So we're doing a continuous monitoring program at the moment. You've got something called Ever Chemicals. So Ever Chemicals are causing a big stir in the US. I think there was a film made about these kind of chemicals called Black Water. There's new legislation. It's for shallow water. Shallow water is better because shallow water you can get the kind of data out easier. But for us to be involved, so we're doing a project at the moment in the US, and there the budget is like a sort of $1 million plus. So you may be able to find the technology, but I've had a look around what we've got, and we don't have anything on the shelf that would actually be suitable for you. And if we were to do this kind of work, which we do this kind of work, it's something like $1 million is the budget from ZP to clients doing this kind of work. So even though it's shallow, now if you were trying to do something slightly different, let's say you were trying to do discrete measurements by the dissolved oxygen or the pH, we would have something called Sense It All, and that I would be a lot more comfortable with. But you're trying to do continuous measurements. I don't feel like we're going to be a particularly good fit for you. But I would stay on because I'm going to talk about Sense It All in a bit, so that might be a little bit interesting. But I did have a little look around, and I just think, no, we're doing this kind of work, but it's it would be a big budget ask from us to you on that one. Question number 2 is about redox enzymes. So this is slightly more academic. So I got a question. The questioner is being they're trying to detect a molecule. They're trying to use 2 enzymes working with a mediator, and I'm going to definitely touch upon that now. So I've read your description, and this questioner has also got a concern that he thinks that actually what he's being told is not altogether correct, and I agree with him. So he's got this substrate that's in its oxidized state, and it goes to its reduced state. Okay, understood. You've got an enzyme that's able to I just want to say to Sahand, we did look into it, Sahand, but it was too expensive. So in this case, that was just one of the chats that was going on. Substrate is being, it's in its oxidized state, it's going to its reduced state. There's an enzyme that's able to deliver electrons to that substrate in order to reduce it. And the enzyme itself gets oxidized. Now that enzyme is reset or reduced by another enzyme. So there's a second enzyme that's coupled to the first enzyme, and that enzyme ends up getting oxidized. Now, what this person's being told, and their instincts are correct, that we've got ferricyanide. So ferricyanide, I say it very clearly because the common oxidation states of iron are +3 and +2. just out of interest, there is something called hemoglobin. Oh, sorry, you know there's hemoglobin. Hemoglobin, by the way, iron in that case is in +4, but +4 oxidation state is really rare. Let me just pretend that +4 doesn't exist, and we're just talking about +2 and +3. So we're talking here, ferricyanide is in a +3 oxidation state. It does not have another electron to give. And this person's also being told to apply a 0.2 volts to that, which means that the ferricyanide is not only in its highest oxidation state, it's being held there in its highest oxidation state. And this person's instincts are correct that actually they probably need to be applying a less voltage. Now the less voltage here is 0.1 volts, which potentially would put that then, which would end up potentially, you have to do a cyclovoltammetry in order to confirm this, of reducing the ferricyanide to ferrocyanide. Now the ferrocyanide is in the iron's in its +2 oxidation state. It can give an electron to this enzyme and reduce it. So this person is correct that if you start with a solution of ferricyanide, you actually have to partially reduce some of that solution to ferrocyanide just by applying a 0.1 volts to it. Now the reason I'm a little bit, oops-a-daisy, I just want to show you this very quickly. Let me just go to screen number X here. Obviously I'm super biased at ZP. If I was going to do this kind of work, I'm just going to, then I would want to do a cyclovoltammetry. So I would do cyclovoltammetry using this app, and then I could go on to do the amperometry by going to a different QR code and doing amperometry that way. Now I've got a couple of links here. One of them is to the instrument, and another one is to some screen printed electrodes, and I think we do a good job in this application. So let me go forward a little bit more. You need to do a CV. I think you've already done a CV, but your CV, you're correct. You need to be really working in a, you need to be working at a lower potential. When I mean lower potential, so let's say your reduction peak is around about 0 volts. You need to be working to the left of that, sort of down about, whoops-a-daisy, I'm sharing the wrong screen, my apologies. I am talking about ferricyanide here. So this is a CV of ferricyanide. This person is being told to work essentially positive of the oxidation peak, and I think actually no, you're right. You need to be working essentially in a negative direction of the reduction peak. So you are correct. You're being told to work in the wrong place. Nobody's real fault. I remember having to think my way through this in about 2000 when I was first getting into doing glucose sensors, and I did also have to get my head around this. It was a bit simpler there because there we were just essentially dealing with enzymes and a mediator. You're dealing with 2 enzymes and a mediator. So, but I am quite good at getting my head around the electron. We call it electron cascade or the enzyme cascade. So I'm imagining an experiment that you may actually be doing at about minus 0.1 volts. And I'm imagining, obviously I'm super biased, I'm imagining that you're actually doing it on one of our instruments, on one of our screen printed electrodes. Of course you're not. It's not obligatory to be using our stuff. We do answer questions anyway. So your current is at this point is in the negative, is in the cathodic region, because essentially you're doing a reduction of ferricyanide to ferrocyanide. Now when you add your substrate, let's say after 50 seconds, you should get a jump in the signal. Now that is electrochemically set up correctly. Whether your enzymes are really working, that's your problem number 2. But your problem number 1 is you don't stand a chance whilst you're A, working with ferricyanide, and you're B, working at potentials positive to the oxidation of that ferricyanide, because actually you need that ferricyanide to be in its ferrocyanide state, and you want to make it sort of almost catalytic so it's turning over by applying a potential that is negative of its reduction peak. Minus 0.1 volts would probably be an okay place to, let's say, work. Of course, be super nice and do it on one of our potential stats and one of our screen printed electrodes, but of course you're not obliged to. But I would come along to our webinar for academics. I think it's on the 25th of June. It will be interesting because at ZP we're all about creating impact from scientific research. All right, I think I've said enough on that. But yeah, interesting question. Most technical question of the evening, so I appreciate that so much. Thank you. This is a super interesting question. So at Zimmer Peacock, we have a lot of biosensors, including pH, including oxygen. We make assays. We do a lot of contract development, and we do use ferrous cyanide a lot in those assays. But this question is about NT-proBNP. I've looked it up. It's a cardiovascular marker. This is a bit of an experiment for you. Please scan this QR code. If you've got an Android phone, please scan this QR code. I appreciate you might have to watch the recording afterwards to catch up on this. If you've got an Apple phone, please scan this QR code. What this will do now is install an app on your phone called Sense It All. Sense It All is the kind of ZP technology platform. So what that will then do, if I go back to my no, in fact I will do it. Yeah, what that will do is allow you then to actually use this instrument. So this, when I say this instrument, this particular instrument here, you will be able to use this instrument because I am in Bluetooth contact with that instrument using this app. This app is also something I'm not going to demonstrate tonight, but it's actually cloud enabled. So every time I do a measurement, all the data goes to the cloud. So it can be used in an R&D setting. You can do open circuit potential with it, amperometry with it, linear sweep voltammetry with it, cyclic voltammetry with it. Sorry, I realize I'm sharing the wrong screen here. And you can also do EIS, electrochemical impedance spectroscopy, with it as well. It's a pretty powerful little instrument. But also any of these QR codes now. So if you're watching this later on, just scan these QR codes. Once you've installed the app on your phone, you'll find that actually you can then scan these QR codes and it will allow you to run different assays. So this is a very modern and relevant piece of technology, both for development, but also then for commercialization. Because what you'll find out is that you can scan this QR code. I'll just scan it actually off my... I'm just going to scan it off my computer here. And now I'll change screens for a second. So what I've done is I scanned that QR code. The way we've set this up is, this is a generic app at this point. You can put your own details into this if you're a partner of Zimmer and Peacock. And suddenly this app is your app to drive that hardware so that actually you can commercialize something like this NT-proBNP much faster than otherwise, because suddenly you're not dealing with lab instruments, you're suddenly dealing with a minimally viable prototype with its own app and cloud connectivity, and of course uses ZP screen printed electrodes because they're really, really good quality. So scan that QR code, have some fun with that, I would say. And just as if you've got that code or you've got this app on your phone now, you can actually play with some of these other QR codes that I'll share now. Scan this QR code, you'll suddenly see, when I say scan this QR code, what I'll do is I'll just change screens for a second. There's a little, whoops-a-daisy, there's a little symbol here, and I'll actually touch it. It's looking for a QR code at this point. I'm just going to hold that QR code up to here, and now I've got the TAS. So there's a little symbol here. Every time you click that, it will access your camera. It will want to scan a QR code, and at that point then it will reskin the app and change the app, what the app can actually do. So it's pretty powerful. It allows us to deal with educational applications, research applications, and most importantly, commercialization applications as well. Right, so scan these QR codes, see the power of this. So we got total antioxidative capacity, glucose here, chilies here, ginger here, potassium here, really good one for medical, pH here. So our colleagues who are trying to measure pH in shallow water, we're in really good shape to do it in a point of care application, but continuous monitoring, even in shallow water, is tough, and we're not really in a position to be able to do that, though we did ask around. Just out of interest, anyone who's dealing with any kind of water, nitrate is going to be the big one. Nitrate, phosphate, these are going to be the ones that people are really interested in doing as well. So we've also got nitrate in there as well. And NT-proBNP is a cardiovascular marker. Just to say, we do actually have cardiovascular markers on the in our repertoire, including troponin I, but we don't have an off-the-shelf PT prothrombin. Sorry, PT is prothrombin. My apologies for that. But we don't have the particular one you're dealing with. We do development work, but development work, is you need a budget, and ZP would have to do that kind of work for you. Question number 4 is about lactate technology. Right, so I've said it already, but I'm going to be quick and I'm going to be efficient with your time. Right, so at Zimmer and Peacock, bang, we do have these technologies. This is a microneedle technology. One person was asking the other day, can you put it on the human body? The answer is you absolutely can. Now, this is our tier 1 technology. We use the tier 1 technologies with big clients or well-funded clients, but we do not offer it on the website. We can't discuss it other than on big projects when people have actually got budget in place. We do put technology on the website, and I will talk about that, but this is really only to give you a proof of... Right. So Ali would suggest working on real-time determination of chlorite and chlorate drinking water too. Thank you, Ali. I appreciate that. Just out of interest, Ali, we're going to be releasing a free chlorine. I think it's... I want to get it right, Ali. You're as good a scientist as I. So I think I want to say it's hypochlorous, but we are working on free chlorine. FYI, it's coming very soon. But thank you for the heads up as well, Ali. I appreciate that. So I'm going to talk now about lactate technologies from Zimmer and Peacock that we do have on our web store. So this watch is not on our web store. It's had 20 million invested in it. We're very cautious about who we talk to about it, and people have to be very well funded. But if you want to do some lab work, we do have lactate sensors. If you can follow the videos, then you can buy the lactate sensors. If the videos don't, if you're confused by the videos, then please don't buy the lactate sensors, because the way the business model works is we have these sensors on our web store. If you can follow the video, it means that you are, let's say, technical enough to actually use those lactate sensors. If you're confused by the videos, then definitely do not buy those lactate sensors. And there's a buy now, and there's also calibration solutions. We also have a sweat patch. What I mean by sweat patch is ability to bring sweat to those sensors. Again, this is really just for proof of principle. Watch the video. If you can follow the video, then you are qualified to be able to buy that product. If you're not sure and you have questions, do not buy the product. Microneedles. Now, the microneedles we have on our website. So these microneedles, they are piercing my skin. The microneedles that we put on the website, I've put a bit of a disclaimer on part of the website tonight, because we will not sell you stuff off our website that if you're going to stick that through your skin. That's opening us both up to a whole raft of potential litigation that we do not want. So we do not sell microneedles on our website so you can push them through your skin. We'll sell them on our website so that you can play with them and do proof of principle, but you cannot push them through your skin. And if you say you're going to push them through your skin, we cannot sell them to you. We do have lactate activation solutions. So if you buy microneedles and you want to activate them towards lactate, we do have a lactate activation solution. And then this is something that Ali talked about in his CGM, continuous glucose monitoring talk. We do have barrier layers as well. So lactate enzymes are particularly wimpy. You do need what's called a barrier layer in order to prevent all of the lactate reaching the enzyme layer. So you need a layer of enzyme and a layer of barrier, and then a barrier layer on top of it. If all of this is not so clear to you, then I would actually, you can't really be buying those products. If it is clear to you, then you are okay to buy those products. We also have electronics. So the electronics that we use both in the wearables and in the IVD. When I say IVD, in the in vitro diagnostics. So both of these electronics are basically, or both of these technologies are using the same electronics, and you can buy the electronics. Right, hypochlorous acid. Okay, hypochlorous acid. Thank you, Ali, for the update on that. That's useful to know. So I'll make the point that it's chlorite, chlorate, and we're doing hypochlorite. All right, I'm going to look into chlorite and chlorate. Thank you. I will look into it. So we do have the same electronics in both the IVD and the wearables, and you can buy those electronics off our website. I'm linking you to the data sheet. If it's not clear, please don't buy the products, because then we can't support you in a heavy manner. We will support people in a heavy manner if they're big clients on Lactate, but if you're not able to follow what we have online, then it's not really the right technology for you. All of these kind of configurations we have actually done at ZP, the wire sensors, the microneedle sensors, the non-invasive, and also the implanted sensors as well. You know, and I always put this up to say that we've actually measured lactate in people's sweat, and it's actually been really successful. And you can, if you buy our sweat patch, our lactate sensor, and our electronics, you can actually have a go. You're doing it yourself, but you're on your own if you're just buying stuff off the website. And if you've got a large budget and you're able to open up for Zimmer Peacock, then you can work with ZP. And I've put all that on our landing page this evening. So I think I'm coming up to the end now, so I want to just be efficient. Right, so question number one. It was nice that you really appreciate you coming on this evening, Sahand, so thank you. But for us to do pH and oxygen in a continuous manner, we're not ready to do that. See, we could do it, but it's just not going to be good. So what I mean by that is pH sensors today, they drift, oxygen sensors drift. People will want low cost, they want calibration free, they want cloud connectivity. You can have cloud connectivity, but it's the drift and the repeated calibration that's going to really upset people. So we don't want to do it unless there's a really good budget in place. Question number two is absolutely right. His instincts were correct that he's got the mediators in the wrong oxidation state, and the voltage or the potential he was told to apply was going to keep it in the wrong oxidation state. But by switching the potential, it should start to work, unless the enzyme cascade then doesn't work. Sensors for NT-proBNP. So we don't have the sensors, but I think we do have good screen printed electrodes. They should be linked. We also have a platform called Sense It All, which you can use in your R&D phase and as your product. And then Lactate technology. You are welcome to buy stuff off our website, but we won't discuss our tier 1 technology unless somebody really has a good budget in place. Otherwise, you are welcome to use the resources on the website, but if you get stuck, I can't support you, so you really have to make sure that you understand those videos before you actually buy. I just want to say a special thank you for Ali. I realize if I do these on Saturday night, then we seem to meet up then. All right, but in the meantime, I will have a look at chlorite and chlorate, and I do want to say a special thank you for the questioners this week. Otherwise, I appreciate in London now it's 8:30, but in Europe it's 9:30, so I wish you a good Saturday evening. Okay, thanks very much.